Good afternoon everyone, it's Caroline of Caroline's Corner. It's Sunday the 7th of November and I'm back for Flosstube number 20. This channel is mostly about cross stitch and knitting with occasional forays into quilting and reading, depending how much I've got done and how frequently I have managed to record. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as @CarolineAKemp. And Caroline is spelled with a K. The show notes for this episode will be on my blog, which is carolinescorner.blogspot.com. Didn't intend it to be 2 months since I last recorded, but life happens. The weekend I was planning on recording in October, my delightful son had brought COVID home from school, and despite me being double vaccinated, managed to pass it on to me. So I was lying in bed not feeling very well at all that weekend, and October just kind of vanished, I'm afraid, between trying to juggle his isolation, my own isolation, and work. And we went away at the end of the month for half term. We had a lovely trip up to Northumberland, and I will put some photos at the end of the video showing some of the places we went. We went to Alnwick, to one of my absolutely favourite places in the world, which is the Barter Books, which is a huge used bookstore. It's the old Alnwick station building, so it's very atmospheric and a lovely place to visit. We went to Alnwick Gardens, we went to Lindisfarne, we went to a National Trust property called Cragside, which was the home of the Armstrong family, who owned a large weapons manufacturing business, and they built this country house, and because he was an engineer, he developed a hydroelectric system for the house to power all the lights and provide the hot water and everything else. So it's a beautiful place. And then Beamish Museum on the way back, which is a history of folk history of the northeast. So there's a pit village, there's Victorian village, Georgian farm, and stuff, and some quite nice samplers actually in the Georgian and Victorian bits. So yeah, I'll put a load of pictures at the end so you can see. And we were really lucky with the weather in that it was mostly dry, which is the best you can hope for in the UK at the end of October. So yeah, I'm on the road, pretty much recovered now. We all are. Chris didn't get it very badly at all, just passed it on to me. Let's get on with the stitching, because obviously there's been a fair bit because I've recorded since the beginning of September. So cast your minds back. Last time I recorded, I was talking about Sampler September. So I showed Rachel Howells in the last video, and the second project I was going to work on was a white work sampler. Don't know how well this will show up, that I got as a kit at the second Aquith Sampler Symposium at Aquith School in 2008. It was the symposium where Jacqueline Holsworth of Needleprint launched the Goodhart Samplers book. So this is based, so one of the authors of the book, Everlott Hansen, had pulled together some motifs from various of the Goodhart Samplers book and devised a little sampler. So I'm currently working on the pulled thread bit. So this will be an acorn when it's all filled in. So I'm in the process of just working all my cloister blocks and dove's eyes to create the pattern. So I think I had just about started on done this outside this row here. So I got a couple more rows of the filling in done. Not sure how well that's going to show up, I'm afraid. And it's using the kit materials. I don't have a picture of the finished piece because Eva had unfortunately left it on the train on her way up. She put it on the rack out instead of keeping them for, the train was late and she was in such a rush, she'd left it on the train, unfortunately. I'm not sure if it ever turned up or not. So that was my first piece for Sampler September. The second sampler I was working on was Hannah Coates from Hands Across the Sea Samplers, which I started in 2020. I'm stitching Hannah on 40 count light mocha linen. As you can see, she's quite a big sampler. Big girl is Hannah. So for this time round, I was concentrating. I'd got this bit up at the corner done. So what I was doing was just putting in the outline of the border, and I almost got done. So I've reached the bottom corner there, and I'm well on the way to the bottom of this bit. And it's just grass at the bottom, so what I will do is probably just put the bottom row of the grass in, and then and then I'll be confident it'll fit. I've got everything in the right place on the linen. I can start filling in the rest. Looking forward to getting back to Hannah because she was fun to do. I'm stitching her on the called for DMCs, using the called for DMC. And my floss tag was some cross stitch that my daughter did when she was on a guide trip to Switzerland in 2019. So that's Hannah Coates. So I've got most of the border in, and then I'll put the bottom row of the grass in just to make sure it's all level and matches up. And then we can get on to the fun stuff. So the last piece I worked on for Sampler September was another class piece. It's called Anniversary Roses by Forget Me Nots in Stitches. And quite a lot of this one done. So that's the top section, moving down, and I almost done with that rose, the Montenegrin stitch block, which has been hanging around for way too long. As I said in my last video, I think I've been working on this every time I picked it up for the last 3 or 4 years, because she's not had much work outside of when I've been doing things like Mania or picking up whips for Sampler September. So I have another one of these scrolls to do, some initials to put in, and I think I may put in Susan and Sarah Albury. So I I took the class with them back in 2010. And then I've only got this is I finished my colour photocopy that Lawrence of Forget Me Nots and Stitches gave us. So I'm finished with this block. I have another row of the verse and a final block to be finished. So that won't, once it comes up in my rotation, shouldn't take too long, but it's going to be a little while before it becomes a focus piece. So I'm trying to finish off a few older pieces, even though this one dates back to 2010. It's not my oldest whip by a long way. I don't think I can get it all in without leaning back hugely. So that was Anniversary Roses, and it was very nice to work on that one again. Hopefully it'll come out again at some point and I can get a bit further. Anniversary Roses is charted for a mix of Weeks Dye Works and Sampler Threads and Thread Gatherer and Karen Silks. Lauren mixes her fibres a lot in her designs. She does. She goes more on the colour which gets the colour right rather than sticking to any one type of thread, which makes them interesting to stitch. So that wraps up Sampler September. It's nice just to stitch on samplers. Then we got on to October. Now I was thinking of doing dark October stitching, and then with catching COVID I just didn't fit, my head just wasn't in the space for it. I did my new start was sort of in that vein. It's another one by Lauren Sauer of Forget Me Nots and Stitches. It's a chart I've had for an awfully long time. It's called Claire de Lune. She's just the moon, a couple of little bats. So I made a small start on the moon. There we go. Made a small start on the face. Stitch on that for a couple of days. It's being stitched on a piece of 28 count Lugana from Kiwi Illusions, and I've no idea if Kath is still dying. And it's called Coastal Ice. And this again is from Deep Stash. As I said, a lot of my fabric goes back. I think this is one. I have a sister who lives in New Zealand. I have a feeling this is some. One point for my birthday, I asked her to buy me some fabric from Kath and send me it. It only calls for 2 colours, so I'm using the call for Thread Gatherer Silk, which is Mint Frost. And for the black, I'm going to use Basic Black from Hand Dyed Fibres, Vicky Clayton. So yeah, it'd be nice to get back to that one at some point. After that, I did actually work on a piece I'm making as a gift, so I can't share that, but that got finished. And after I'd finished that, I did a little bit, as it was Breast Cancer Awareness Month, instead of doing some dark October stitching this year, I've got a load of charity kits that Lois, Lady Dot Creates, did when she was for Elegant Stitch, her shop. So I pulled out one of those. This is the basket fob from the Heart basket. I can't remember when I bought this. It'd be the early 2000s. So I have the basket, and this is the last of those kits I still have to stitch. So I'm working on the fob. There's a basket band and liner and a pin cushion. So I finished the top heart, These are all French knots. Not my favourite stitch, it has to be said, aren't French knots, but I'm quite pleased to have actually managed to stick with it and get them all done. And I'm working on the second heart to go with that. As I said, this is the final piece I've done. There were, over a few years, she released a needle roll, which I've done, which is downstairs, a sewing pocket, which I stitched in 2006, and a needle book, a matching scissor fob and pink scissors, which I did those in 2007, but I think they were out well before then. And the threads, there's some Weeks Dye Works in Carnation and Heather. I think it's Carnation and Heather. And then pink number 12 Perlé and some DMC. This is all on a Kelmscott thread keep that I acquired at some point. It's lovely. So it's nice. I started that one Mania 2019, so it's quite nice to have that out again. And a little bit more progress on that. So after I'd done that, I went to the piece that is now my focus, going to be my focus piece. So you will see this a lot till it's finished. This is my oldest whip. This was started back in 2001, so it's 20 years old, and I fed up of looking at it, so I want to get it finished. It's a needle tapestry kit from Landmark Tapestries. It's called Sunflower, Stained Glass Sunflower. So as you can see, I'm working on this green border. I don't have a huge amount to do. I think I've only got, you know, fairly straightforward stitching. I'm probably about 2/3 done, if not close to 3/4. So this time when I picked it up, I got all of this green filled in down to the corner, so about 1/3 of that green border all done. So your plan is to work on this for one stitching weekend. I stitch over the weekends. I pick a project up on a Friday and work on it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the nights I knit, because it's just too mad to contemplate picking up my stitching with work, between work and running around after the kids. So my plan is to do one session a month on this until it is finished, and then I will move on to another focus piece. As I said, I'm trying to work through my whips in chronological order and get them knocked out. So this is stitched with Appleton tapestry wools. I'm just hoping I have enough. And then the week we were away, obviously I got a lot more stitching time in, and I took away with me, because it was half term, I took The Beekeeper by Plum Street Samplers. I'm very happy with how much work I got in on this one. When I picked it up, I had the top line of the urn done. This was a Mania start in 2020. So yeah, so for half term week I got the rest of the urn stitched. No, I had a little bit of the greenery on this side done and the top of the urn. So I finished the urn, put the greenery on this side, started the bee skep and started the flowers. So very, very pleased with how that's looking, and my progress in a week So, you know, when I get a solid chunk of stitching, I do actually get stuff done. It's just trying to carve out that solid chunk of stitching time. I bought this when it was an exclusive kit from Nashville Market in 2014. So it's been sat there a while. And it came with the call for fabric, which is 35 count natural linen, and the call for weeks dye works. So that is the Beekeeper, and hopefully we'll see light of day again sometime fairly soon, because I did enjoy working on that one. Always enjoy Paulette's designs. And then last weekend I finished out October by pulling another old class piece out. This is Contented Hours by Jackie Duplessis of It's Finally Finished. Now, I took this class with Jackie back in 2018, and when I'm working on the first piece, which is the handle for the basket. You stitch 2 of these, and I have, I think, 1 more set of leaves, and I'll be at the end of this. So when I picked it up, I just got 2, I think I had about 2, maybe 3 sets of leaves in. So very, very pleased with how much more I managed to get done in the weekend when working on this piece. It's all stitched in silk in beautiful shades of like rose and rose, sort of taupe mauves, mauvey colours and greens. It's lovely. Very much enjoyed working on that one, and it's nice. I say I've only just got that bit done, and there's all the rest to do. But we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. But nice to be able to see a solid bit of progress. That's October. Very happy with how much stitching I got in October, but it probably helped I was in isolation for 2 weeks of it. I apologise if the lighting's not great today, but with the clocks having gone back, the only time I had to record this weekend is after, of course, it's got dark, and it's about 5 o'clock here, so it is quite dark. So I've tried to do my best with the lighting here in the study, but it's not always great. So on to November. So this weekend I've been swapping between 2 pieces. Every year I give my children a copy of the Just Cross Stitch ornament edition. This year I gave them the 2013 ornament edition, and I ask them to choose ornaments to stitch. My daughter does it quite happily, but my son sometimes I end up choosing for him. And her choice of ornament this year was this one from Fernridge Collections, which is called Tinsel Tree. So this is after I worked on this on Friday night. There we go. So just made a start on this. I don't know what the linen is other than it's 28 count. It was an unlabelled offcut that I had in a box of offcuts, so no idea. Just felt it worked with the colours, and it's stitched in 4 shades of DMC grey, sort of the pewter greys in the DMC colourway. 413, 415, 317 and 318. So and then there's beads and sequins to go on it. So I think because it's mostly Rhodes and satin stitch, it's actually should stitch up reasonably quickly when I'm working on it. I have, however, so I will be working on that one till it's finished, but I'm hoping it won't take too long. And then of course it's the Blackbird Sal this weekend, and I am back to working on Moon Garden, which was Loose Feathers number 8, and I bought this back in 2005 on a trip to California when I went to visit Elegant Stitch, amongst other. So I planned an itinerary that took me around stitching shops. I went to Needle in a Haystack, I went to a shop in Sacramento whose name escapes me now, but it's long since closed unfortunately, and Elegant Stitch, and bought that one. And I had an online stitching session with some friends yesterday, so made quite good progress on it. So I can't remember where I was when you last saw this because it's been a couple of months. So I got a bit done in October. I think I got Moon in, a little bit more of the alphabet. So yesterday I got another twiddly bit, garden done, this line of alphabet, a little bit more border. So there's another 2 rows of alphabet to put in. I'm going to try and get another one in tonight. And I'm actually shooting for probably finishing it in December. It may well be that depending how the Blackbird weekend goes, I'll just power through and get it done. Because say 2 more rows of alphabet and the border, and this one will be finished. It's stitched on 32 count Lakeside linen in the colourway Sienna Night, which I pulled out from Very Deep Stash. I have no idea if Lakeside still dye this colour, but it's working beautifully with these colour threads, and I'm using the called for Gentle Arts threads that Blackbird charted. I made one change so far to the chart because I decided to keep Barb's initials in, because Barb had stitched the model and I think it's her design. Rather than changing them from my own initials, I did the K for myself in the deep purple. Highland Heather, I think, is the purple shade, just to personalise it for me. So yeah, so that's Moon Garden. I've got another session on it tonight, and then on Monday I'll be back to the ornament. Very, very pleased with how that's turned out. Right. So my plans for November. I'm going to finish the ornament. I need to get that done, so in December I can stitch the ornament for my son. There'll be a session on Sunflower Tapestry, and then depending on how long it takes me to finish the ornament, I'm going to stitch on 1, maybe 2 whips. The first one, I've gone back to using the Tiny Decisions app to decide which whips to work on. So I've spun it to get a 1 class whip and 1 regular whip, if you like. So I'm planning on trying to get a little bit of time in on This Too Will Pass box, which is another of the breast cancer fundraising kits from Elegant Stitch, and if I get chance I want to work on Forget Me Nots in Stitches along the James River pocket, Williamsburg bound pocket, which is another class piece of mine. And then I also need to do some finishing, so I need to finish off this gift piece I've been working on, and I need to get the back finished for Take a Lovely Sampler, which I mentioned in my last video, because it's just not had a chance to do any finishing at all since I've gone back to work, and that needs to change. Mostly because we've been busy doing other stuff at weekends, but now we're getting into winter, I shall try and get back to my finishing time. So there's been a little bit of stash come in, not huge amounts because I've actually spent on a couple of biggies. The first one has arrived, the second one is still en route across the Atlantic. I couldn't resist the Mary Ann Aldridge kit that was the exclusive through the homespun, can't remember the group name, I'll put it in the Facebook group, Homespun Needlework and Samplers, I think. So I ordered the kit from the Shepherd's Needle. Took a little, yeah, took quite a while, you know, stuff is really slow crossing the Atlantic at the moment. So I got the kit with the 40 count vintage country mocha and the classic Colourworks threads, and also came with a Samplings and Memories floss tag. I'm sure you've seen this on lots of other people's floss tubes. I'm fairly sure some people have finished it before I even got the kit, but I don't mind. That's going to be a start probably January, I think. I've also succumbed to the Hobby House Needlework Hands Across the Sea exclusive, because I've ordered the kit. That's also coming from the States rather than from Nicola, so that will get here when it gets here as well. But it's a big relief when that arrived safe and sound. So yeah, they were two fairly big purchases on Stash Front, so I've been trying to have a degree of restraint. However, I did treat myself to the Christmas ornament edition for 2021. Like I say, I give them to my kids and say pick an ornament, because I stitch them an ornament every year. So while some of the designs might not be my taste, they do tend, there's usually some that will appeal to the kids, and I find them a good way of just getting a look at some designers that I wouldn't possibly cross my path, because I tend to be fairly stuck in what I do, because I don't get to go to a shop to have a browse. So yeah, I've seen some quite nice ones. I'm sure all the kids in due course will find something to stitch. So that came from Fobbles. Because nothing can travel alone, I also got the Stacey Nash Pin Keep Rose Cottage Sampler Pin Keep, because I've wanted that since it came out in market in the spring. So that one. And on an Etsy shop I've been meaning to buy from for ages is Northumbria Sampler House. And when her newest sampler came out, the Caroline Scott 1821, let me take it out of there, file pocket, I couldn't resist any longer. So I bought myself the sampler and the matching floss tag. So she has some lovely samplers that she's reproduced. There's just so many at the moment, and it's hard to keep. I don't know, I only have so much money that I could spread around. So yeah. And the other thing, of course, I'm doing at the moment is kitting up stuff for starts for next year. So one of my starts for next year is something I've had in my stash for an awfully long time. It's A Breath of Spring, which is a really, really old Just Nan. It is Just Nan number 4. I've got all the seasonal start samplers and I really want to stitch them. So I decided this year I was going to start. So I've got a piece of 32 count Winter Moon Belfast linen, and I had some of the DMC already in my stash. So I ordered the colours I didn't have from Peakside Needleworks. And it also uses a very, very delicate Karen Water Lilies sunstone, which a time ago I put on a bobbin. So I've had the chart and the Karen for ages, so I'm looking forward to getting started on that one in the spring. And also from Peakside I bought some Fibre on a Whim 40 count parchment. It's a bit greener than it looked on the screen, so I'm not sure it will do for the sampler. I got a fat quarter. I'm not sure it'll do for the sampler I had in mind, but we'll see when I do a floss toss. But either way, it can sit in my stash, and I'm sure it will do for something at some point. So it's nice to, don't have a huge, I have a large fabric stash, but most of it is 32 count or 40 or 28, so it's nice to have a few higher counts for samplers. So that's all my stitching stuff. On to knitting. Obviously there's been a fair bit of knitting happened as well. No finishes, but lots and lots of progress. If you remember last time, I had just cast on another Love Note sweater. This one is going to be for my daughter, who took one look at mine when I finished mine and decided she'd quite like one as well. And as I had enough of the same yarn left, I'm knitting another one in that yarn. The yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners Fleece Gems. It's 100% Wensleydale, and it's in the Amethyst colourway, which is this lovely purple. And when you last saw it, I was just working on the yoke. Since then, I have finished the body and made a start on the arm. Needle's got through there. Probably about halfway down the first sleeve. So very, very pleased with how that's progressing. They really do knit up very, very quickly, you know. This is a couple of months and I'm over halfway done with the sweater. My daughter, of course, is monitoring progress every time. This came away on with us for half term, which is partly why I got so much knitting. You know, most of the body got knit while I was away. My stitch marker is from Ancat and Beg, and was part of it's a cat in a sweater that was part of the Cat Knits package that I got from Eden Cottage Yarns when she launched her book. So yeah, very pleased with how I've gotten on with that. My goal for November is to get the sleeves finished, so that I've just got to do the neck in December and sew all the ends in, and then she shall have a sweater she can wear. Next up, again with a lot of progress, is the Ivy Over the Door shawl from Curious Handmade. Oh, I forgot to say, Love Notes was by Tin Can Knits. This is from Shawl Society number 3, when they were all the designs were inspired by The Secret Garden. So I am knitting mine in Cattle Yarn Company Islington Fingering, which is a Blue Face Leicester and silk blend, and two colourways. The dark green I'm using is Kelp, and there is the lighter colour is Julep. And I am I'm past the 70% done mark on this one. The last time you saw it, it was there where I put the stitch marker in, so which I think was about the halfway point. So I am almost at 3/4 done on this. Just takes. So yeah, so this dark green is Kelp and the neutral at the bottom is Julep. So my plan for November is to try to get to past the 80% done mark on this one. I think there's 2 or 3 months worth of knitting in this still, just to get to the end. But I'm loving how it's looking. I'm being quite large, and covering my lap is not necessarily a bad thing this time of year. My last knitting whip, which has seen a fair bit of progress, is the Cliffwalk socks. I'm knitting this in the Knitting Goddess, self-striping 4-ply British woolen nylon, and the colourway is the God of Evolution from the Back to the Discworld Club, which I was in 2016. So I think I turned the heel last time you saw them. I was working on the gusset. I am up to the toe decreases on this sock. This is the first sock. This is the yarn, my yarn cake. This is the first sock, so it'll be good to get that finished, particularly as my daughter has informed me she's grown out of the socks that the last pair of socks I knit her, so I need to knit her another pair. Now her feet are almost the same size as mine, so I'm feeling these socks may end up going to her. We shall see. But anyway, these are the Cliffwalk socks from from Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade. These were part of Sock Society number 3, and very much enjoying knitting these ones. So got a fair bit done now. We're back at swimming lessons and such, so my plans for November with these is to finish this sock, which is fairly easy going, and to make a start on sock number 2. That's about it, though there is a little bit of knitting stash in that we've got a new wool shop opened in the centre of Leeds where I live, so obviously I had to go and have a look. And I bought this lovely skein of DK yarn from the Dye Shed, and its colourway is Dragon's Breath, so that had to come home with me. The yarn shop's called Bellwether Yarns. She does dye her, she has her own, does her own dyeing as well. It's nice to have someone selling some decent yarn in the centre again. So yeah, so I think this will become a hat because I need a new winter hat. And that's me done. I'm not going to go into what I've been reading because this video is long enough. You will in the pictures of the books see all the books I bought at Barter Books, that was quite a lot. Cannot resist a good second-hand bookshop. So hopefully it won't be a couple of months before I record again. Hopefully I'll be back at the beginning of December. But I'm not going to promise anything because I hate life at the moment. Yeah, so stay safe everyone and take care, and I'll hopefully see you again in December. Bye.